Okay, this lesson is on using the quadratic formula to solve word problems. So our first problem we'll be looking at is you have this widescreen or flat screen TV set, and it's a 46-inch, that's the diagonal measure, and we're given that the height, we're going to call the height h, and the width is h plus 17. So I'll go ahead and define my variables, and it wants to find out what the dimensions of the screen are, meaning what the height and the width are. Let h equal the height of and that's in inches, of the TV, and let h plus 17 equal the width in inches of the TV. Now, since this forms a right triangle right here, I'm going to need to use the Pythagorean theorem for this problem, with this being one of the legs, that's h, and h plus 17 being the other leg. And then I have the hypotenuse of 46. So I'm going to say h squared plus h plus 17 squared, so that's squaring, that's the sum of the squares of the two legs, equals the square of the hypotenuse, which is 46 squared. Now, so that gives me h squared. When I square this binomial, I get h squared plus 2 times the h times 17, so that's 34h plus 17 squared, which is 289. And then I'm going to square 46, which is 2116. That will give me 2h squared plus 34h plus 289 equals 2116. So I'm then going to want to move the 2116 over to the other side so I can get my, before I use the QF, I can get my equation equal to 0. So that's going to get me 2h squared plus 34h, and okay, so I end up with, after I subtract 2116, I get negative 1827, and now I have it set up where I can select my A, B, and C. Now I'll plug into the quadratic formula. So H equals the opposite of B, plus or minus 34 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 1827, all that over 2 times 2. So that'll get me H equals negative 34 plus or minus, that's 1156 plus 14616 all over 4. And that will then get me negative 34 plus or minus 15772 over 4. That does have a factor of 4 in it, that radical, so that's negative 34 plus or minus 2 root. When I divide by 4 there, I'll get 3943 over 2. I can cancel a factor of 2 out of here, and so, I'm sorry, that should have been, hang on, I canceled a 2 prematurely there, that should be a 4. I can cancel a 2 out of there, and that will get me H equals negative 17 plus or minus root 3943 over 2. And that looks like a big mess, but just to get a sense of that, the answer that I'm really interested in is the positive answer, which is h equals negative 17 plus root 3943 over 2. Now that all equals this. That's going to be my answer in terms of that's the height, and so it's this many inches. That is, just so you know, approximately 22.9 inches, which should be, I can tell, is a good answer. And then I add 17 to get the width. So the width is equal to negative 17 plus root 3943 over 2 plus 17. So I rewrote that amount right here. So the width is negative 17 plus root 3943 over 2 plus 17, because that's that extra 17 inches for the width. And that's approximately 39.9, so that makes sense. So those are my dimensions. That is my height, and this is my width for that. So kind of a funny answer, but that's okay. So the next problem we're going to be looking at is, what is the interest rate needed for $7,000 to grow to $8,470 in 2 years? We use the compound interest formula for this. And it's the formula for compound interest is A equals principal times 1 plus r to the t. In this problem, t is going to equal 2, so that'll make a quadratic equation that stands for 2 years. R is the interest rate, the compound interest rate, P is the beginning amount, A is the amount you have after the 2 years. So in this problem, I'll substitute 8,470 for A. That's the amount that I have after the interest has been compounded for 2 years. The principal is 7,000, and I have 1 plus r to the second power. Alright, so I'm going to be solving for r. So what I would tell you to do here before I wouldn't want you to go and distribute here or square the binomial yet. Let's just divide both sides by 7,000. And that will get that binomial that's squared by itself. And that is going to equal, when I do that division, 1.21 equals 1 plus r squared. I'm going to square that binomial, and that'll be 1 plus 2 times 1 times r, so that's 2r plus r squared. Okay, so I'll then let me just rewrite it just so it's in a little more familiar order. Plus 2r plus 1. Then I'm going to subtract 1.21. And I'll get 0 equals r squared plus 2r minus 0.21. So now my A is this 1, my B is this 2, my C is this negative 0.21. So A is 1, B is 2, C is equal to negative 0.21. So R equals the opposite of B plus or minus 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 0.21. All that over 2 times 1. So then that gives me r equals -2 plus or minus, that's 4, the square root of 4 minus, or that's 4 plus 0.84, and that's all over 2. That's r equals -2 plus or minus square root of 4.84, and all over 2. And so that gets me r equals -2 plus or minus 4. The square root of 4.84 is 2.2, and over 2. So what I get here is, in considering the positive value, don't want to deal with the negative, so -2 plus 2.2 is 0.2 over 2, and that is equal to 10%, or 10% compound interest. So one more example. Here I have the total distance you would drive from town A to town B, so town A to town B, but if I have to take Highway 3 and then Highway 17, drive that way, that's going to be a total of 151 miles. Now if I could fly there, that would only be 109 miles. So that's actually the hypotenuse. So this is 109 miles. And this combined distance from here to here is 151 miles. Now I'll let x equal, theoretically it will be the shorter distance at Highway 3, but the distance, I should probably put miles, traveled on Highway 1. I'm sorry, Highway 3. Let me clean that up a little bit. So Highway 3, and let 151 minus x equal the distance, or miles, let's just say miles, traveled on Highway 17. The reason why it's 151 minus x, the reason why it's 151 minus x, for example, if this distance was 50, I'd go 151 minus 50, that would leave 101 on that. If this was 60, that'd be 151 minus x, so that would be 91. So it always sums to 151. So my equation though, because I have a right triangle right here, so we'll call this x and this 151 minus x. So use the Pythagorean theorem again. So I'll go x squared plus 151 minus x squared equals 109 squared. So that's x squared plus, now 151 squared is 22801 minus 302x plus x squared equals 109 squared is 11881. So let me put my like terms together. So I have 2x squared minus, this is 2x squared minus 302x, and then plus 22801 equals 11881. Now I'm going to subtract 11881 from both sides. So I just plugged into the quadratic formula here. I plugged negative 151 in for B, and then for b squared minus 4 times 1 times c all over 2a. And that now gives me 151 plus or minus, that's 22801 minus 21840, all that over 2. And that boils down to x equals 151 plus or minus to 961 over 2, and 961 is actually a perfect square. It's 31, so that's going to get me that x equals the smaller numbers, so that's 151 minus 31, so that is 120 over 2, so that's 60 miles, and then 151 plus 31 is 182, so divided by 2 is 92 miles. So those are the distance traveled by car on the two highways. This would be Highway 3, and this is Highway 17. And that's the end of the lesson.